This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it. It's the best thing going today.
So this started the repeal and replace Randy Orton movement. Top Rope Nation is on the air this week, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ryan Drosty, editor-in-chief of TopRopePress.com, joined here by my two co-hosts. Number one, he's got new technology this week. He's going to sound professional. He's got a nice warm voice to come through the microphone this week. Justin Joint. What's going on, Justin?
Oh, yeah. Sounding professional, but still talking mostly nonsense.
And also joining us this week, Kyle Ross. I think he's wearing pants this week. I saw a full body shot a couple of minutes ago. Kyle, what's going on over there in Cleveland, Ohio?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of breezy under the desk. But, you know, is it bad that I didn't really realize that Justin wasn't using a traditional mic this whole time? Is that bad?
I'm guessing that's because you don't listen to me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Kyle, I don't think you listen to the podcast after we post it and gets all edited and stuff. If you listen to it back, you can tell. His previous mic, it sounded like a little tinny, little light compared to ours. Now his voice sounds full and beautiful.
Oh, okay. Like it was meant to be.
That's
like
right.
Aiden English.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Which is an underrated gimmick, by the way. Can I just be I'm jumping on that train. I always like to get out in front of the internet wrestling community and things. Aiden English, underrated undercard gimmick there with the singing. Much better than that dead in the water vaudevillain shit he was doing before.
You better watch your mouth because Justin Joint is a big time, or he was a big time Vaudevillains fan.
Yeah, I was actually planning on touching on the Vaudevillains when we got to SmackDown later.
Oh, the Vaudevillains. You're going to die on that hill? Oh, no.
Heck yeah, I am. There was so much they could have done with that, and they just didn't.
I don't know. I remember the first time I saw NXT live, I was like, okay, this is mildly amusing. It has zero chance of getting over on the main roster.
That's
that
because
being a Vaudevillains gimmick.
That's because they gave them nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a nothing gimmick.
Okay, that's it. I'm going to talk about it now. Sorry, Ryan.
All right, go ahead.
This is my problem and why I think the Vaudevillains could have worked. All they needed was the little, what they did with Breezango this week. Just that perfect segment with the humor and everything. And all they had to do with the Vaudevillains was something like that. They kind of did it back in NXT with when they're doing the Lucha Underground, or excuse me, the Lucha Dragons. And like they had these old timey skits.
Lucha Underground.
Yeah, that was my bad. But these guys are living in these characters. There's no way they couldn't have come up with something interesting to film and help get these guys over, make these characters more thought out.
Yeah, I liked the Vaudevillains gimmick in NXT quite a bit. I loved the old time feel I loved the entrance, but I also thought that it wasn't going to work on the main roster. Just I don't know. It didn't have the feel of something that would survive in front of 20,000 people as much as I liked it in Full Sail.
Yeah. To Justin's point, they did do them no favors creative. I mean, they didn't even like try to push them. There was that moment. Remember when I think it was like their first pay-per-view. It was about a year ago when they injured Enzo. Remember that? It was the show.
Oh, yeah.
And I get that. Okay, everything's very scripted out and very structured in WWE nowadays. But man, they could have they didn't even like try to make an angle out of that. Like that's something that 10, 20 years ago is just a lock for an angle. You have the Vaudevillains bragging about it. You know, I mean, they could have done, I think I even mentioned this on the show once with you, Ryan, when we first started doing this, like they could have like done the Owen 316 gimmick. Remember, you know, when he after he mistimed the pile driver, which was like a really serious issue, but they turned it into a gimmick. I mean, they could have done that. And they didn't even do that. But bottom line is more singing from Aiden English. Doesn't miss Simon Gotch.
I did love that. And I'm okay with Aiden English singing and crying, because if anybody can get crying over, it's him.
Guys, you never know what you're going to find when you tune into Top Rope Nation. We start off the show talking about the Vaudevillains and Aiden English.
Yeah.
One thing you are going to get every week, as I let off tonight with, our crusade against Randy Orton and his terrible takes on Twitter. So if you didn't check out our last show, by the way, it was 2 weeks ago. Sorry we weren't with you last week. Had some scheduling conflicts. Usually this is a weekly show. That's kind of a one-off. But yeah, check it out on podbean.com, iTunes. Check it out on YouTube, the video version. On YouTube, we have a clever graphic where it says The People versus Randy Orton. I think you'll enjoy it. So we had a good show 2 weeks ago, but we got a lot on deck tonight. First of all, I want to say, if you are listening on iTunes, though, go ahead, hit subscribe, leave us a rating, helps out the show. And also patreon.com/Top Rope Nation, where you can fund the show for $1 a month, help support our growth. So guys, it's been, let's see, this is Thursday night. So it's been 4 days since Payback. We did not do a live cast after the show, but I know we're pretty much in agreement that we all thought it was an excellent pay-per-view. Probably the best pay-per-view of the new brand only era, I would say. I thought it was the best.
I don't know about that.
No, I think so. Certainly the best Raw pay-per-view. Although I guess they did have some SmackDown talent on the show, but technically a Raw pay-per-view.
So it was weird because there was no blowaway match, but I mean, to be honest, the main event on Raw was better than any individual match on the pay-per-view. But I think everything was largely booked well. The only thing, and you know, everyone's going to agree on this, that was kind of, you know, not good was the House of Horrors. But going in, you expected it. And to be honest with you, I had such low expectations going in. I wound up not being that turned off by the whole scenario, even like the pre-tape. Like I was expecting disaster with the pre-tape, and I was like, all right, it's just kind of a goofy brawl. And they did what they needed to do at the end, which was have Mahal interfere and set up the title match. Well, I mean, it was already booked, but, you know, just add more heat to the Backlash title match.
Did you guys see where you can buy the house they shot that in for like $36,000 or something like that? It's outside of Kansas City. So, yeah. I don't know. I thought that match did kind of kill the crowd live a little bit. Was it Joe and Rollins that went on right after that? I kind of felt like that was a really good match, but the crowd was kind of like out of it after watching this goofy House of Horrors thing on the screens for the previous 15 minutes.
I was wondering what they were going to put in the so-called death spot there. I thought they did okay, though, Rollins and Joe, all things considered, in that spot. Yeah,
I do. But would you agree that the crowd was a little bit out of it for what you would expect?
Yeah, a little bit. But I didn't think it was like to the degree that some people thought it was. Like, I didn't think it was. There were things that on this show that, okay, when you like look at it like in the classic sense, like, oh God, whatever match it has to be between a House of Horrors is going to suck. It's going to be a disaster. It didn't really happen that way. Like, the crowd was brought down, but, you know, I think Rollins Joe was still okay, all things considered. Maybe I wasn't expecting that much of those two actually anyway. And, you know, beating Bayley in her hometown, usually that's something we all get up in arms about. And, you know, it is a McMahon doctrine that I don't agree with overall. But I don't think it killed the crowd in this instance like it sometimes does.
No. With
Bayley losing in San Jose. I thought it was fine. And then Alexa was tremendous the next night on Raw.
You mean you're not giving it the Dave Meltzer treatment? Where he wrote in the Observer this week that killed the crowd, Bayley losing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was being too harsh. Because, you know, congratulations to him. He was at Cauliflower Alley and just got an award. The Observer was late, which is rare in a day. And I was just going through it, and I just felt like I was watching a different Payback than he did, reading his thoughts on the show.
Yeah, Justin, let's get your take here. What did you think of the show? Do you agree with me that it was maybe the best brand pay-per-view of the new brand split era, or?
I'd have to go back and take a look at stuff, but I would say it's definitely up there. It's one of the best. It was really good from beginning to end. The House of Horrors match was not great, although going in, I was probably most intrigued about the ending of that match than I was any other match, if only because I didn't understand how either one of those guys would be able to win that match. It was a paradox to me. I fully expected that during the finish, the universe would collapse upon itself and all life would cease to exist. And the reason for that was I thought there was three major reasons why there was going to be no way either Bray Wyatt or Randy Orton could win that match. For one, for Bray, The chances of a champion winning dropped dramatically in a non-title match, so that almost assured him of winning. The fact that he's a Raw superstar versus a SmackDown superstar, Raw's still the flagship show, so I thought that guaranteed him. But then Randy had one major thing in his favor, was that this was the blow-off match in a feud that includes Bray Wyatt, so that almost guaranteed him victory. But I should have known that the answer to breaking the laws of the universe is Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, I actually thought
Cheers,
that was
Jinder Mahal. Cheers.
Yeah. I thought that was the right finish, what they did completely. And it was what I guessed, because, I'm like, all right, you're gonna, it's funny. They have this doctrine now where the guy leaving the brand, it's kind of like he's leaving a territory, even though he's just staying on WWE, just a different show, loses, right? I mean, we saw that with Ambrose against Corbin. He lost, and then Kevin Owens lost his final Raw match to Ambrose before coming over. But so yeah, that was working against Wyatt, in that normally the guy leaving the brand loses, but this was a Raw pay-per-view, and you couldn't send Wyatt in cold off a loss to Raw. You just couldn't. So it made sense to have Mahal interfere and build heat to that title match at Backlash.
Yeah, we were talking off air a few minutes ago, and whether or not Jinder Mahal has a chance to win the belt at Backlash, and I can't remember. Kyle said you think there's a decent chance it might actually happen.
So I'm looking at that show, and I don't see any of the other titles changing hands, which is what made me think. I don't think Breezango is going to beat the Usos. I don't think they're going to change the women's title, if there even is a women's title match. That hasn't been announced. But I could see them doing Naomi versus Carmella, because Carmella just pinned Naomi on Tuesday. So I don't see them doing a change there. I don't see them changing the U.S. title belt again, with Owens just, dropping it and winning it. So, all these brand-only pay-per-views, they usually change one of the titles, and that leaves just the one. And you talk about the paradox, Justin. With this match, they've got another one, because it's like, okay, well, do you really want to put Jinder over? But at the same time, if you beat him, well, what do you do with him then? Because, you've got such a limited amount of time here that if he loses decisively, I mean, do you risk kind of just killing him? Mm-hmm. And they have plans for him. So, I mean, it's not like he's going to go away either way. So, I don't know. It's interesting. I think there's a good chance he could win.
You think they have plans for him, or he's just a stepping stone, a transition to get Randy to his next feud?
I kind of thought that at first. I mean, they definitely have plans with him. You hear about the indie expansion. That's part of it. But I think he's going to stay a player on SmackDown, just because they have no heels. I mean, you cannot make an argument that he's any lower than the number 3 heel on that brand. I mean, you've got Kevin Owens and Baron Corbin. That's it. That's the only other guys you can put above him.
Yeah.
When's Rusev coming back? Another month?
Well, I mean, he's going to kick in for Money in the Bank, because he's getting the title shot. It'll be interesting to see how he's brought back, though. I mean, is he going to be brought back as a heel? I mean, I guess it was kind of a heelish promo we cut, but
yeah, that gives more credence. Gives more credence to Randy Orton keeping the title. And
yes, which is what I thought. But then, man, I mean, are we going to have all 4 champions really retain at Backlash? I don't know.
I would find it hard to believe he could actually win the title, knowing Vince McMahon and his booking. But at the same time, it would make SmackDown a lot more interesting if he had the belt, I think. I mean, I like what they're doing with them. I like the Bollywood boys. Randy Orton, as we've talked about a lot on the show, is a pretty vanilla champion. Not a lot of excitement with him holding the belt. And I think,
although I thought that match, we didn't have a chance to talk about it because we didn't show last week. The match he had with Eric Rowan, granted, it was no DQ. So, when it's a gimmick match like that, it kind of just, it can take a vanilla performer and make him more exciting. I thought that match was okay. It was actually pretty good with Rowan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the end game with Randy Orton here with the title, though? Because, I mean, are we thinking they go back to AJ with the belt? And if they do go back to AJ with the belt, who is turning face and basically a full-on baby face at this point, don't they want to have a heel in between?
So Corbin is the rumored Money in the Bank winner. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
I envisioned it. Let's say Orton retains. I envisioned that he would lose. And if you want to put some nuclear heat on Corbin, you would have him, beat AJ or, dare I say, a Nakamura to, like right after. Like, either AJ or Nakamura beats Orton and you have Corbin immediately cash in on him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Corbin, like, if they, I'm just throwing hypotheticals out here. I don't know anything. Let's say they did Orton Nakamura at SummerSlam. Nakamura beats Orton for the title. And Corbin comes right out with the briefcase and cashes it on him and just ruins the celebration. I mean, that's a good way to get over Corbin as a heel.
That's hot. I like that. I like that idea. I'm on board for that.
Yeah, I mean, and AJ would probably work in that role too. I don't know. What's interesting with SmackDown is I have no idea what the long view is. I mean, with Raw, we know they've got Lesnar and Reigns kind of in their pocket. SmackDown doesn't have that. To me, AJ versus Nakamura is something you hold off and do at WrestleMania.
Yeah. I think I like that idea you have for SummerSlam. If it was me, I would probably do it with AJ rather than Nakamura because AJ's already had the title run. I feel like, yeah, with Nakamura, I wouldn't want to see him get played like that the first time he gets a main roster world title.
That's what it would serve to do is give him a lot of sympathy.
Yeah, I know that, but I also feel like as far as Nakamura goes, it might have kind of a negative effect on him. I'd rather it be with AJ.
It could be the wrong time. Like, there was something I was thinking of because, like, when I say it, like in the classic sense, in the old way of booking, yes, it would do that nuclear heat. But in the modern sense, there is a risk of just pissing people off by doing that. It draws the wrong kind of heat. There was another match on Payback where I watched it with a buddy and I was talking about that. Oh, the Aries Neville thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know last time you guys watched like old wrestling, like from the 80s. I actually I had an old prime time on. It was the Rougeaus and the Hart Foundation, I think it was. And the Rougeaus were challenged for the tag title. So this was like early 87. And they won by a DQ. But the crowd was like really excited. And the announcer's like, but just a reminder, titles can only change hands by pinfall or submission. And the 1987 WWE crowd's like, oh man, that's right. Well, like if you fast forward to 2017, they do the same thing with Aries and Neville, right? And the crowd's like, fuck this. Like, it doesn't have like, it's kind of like Vince, I still think in his mind is like, yeah, I'm going to get that reaction. Like, in 1987, the crowd's going to like, be like, yeah, Aries has won it. And they're going to be so just like, oh, shucks, when they remember that DQ rule. Like, no, they know it.
That's kind of played out 30 years later.
Yeah, it just puts heat on the booker, not really the heel.
Yeah. So you guys, well, I don't know about Justin. Kyle, you don't think Breezango has a chance at winning the tag belts?
No, I think that it's funny. Both tag divisions right now on Raw and SmackDown, the challengers, I think, are just kind of placeholders because Cesaro and Sheamus turning heel, which I liked it a lot. I don't think that happens if the Revival's not hurt. If Wilder's jaw isn't broken.
Mm-hmm.
And then over on SmackDown, I don't think Breezango gets his opportunity if New Day wasn't hurt. If Kofi Kingston.
Yeah,
so like I
would love to see Breezango win, but I think they're going to hold off for the Uggos and New Day.
Yeah, I think Breezango's fun, but there's a difference between like being over and like being able to like draw in that championship role. And I mean, realistically, no one draws as the tag team champions at WWE, but
not to mention they've been playing hot potato with those tag titles on SmackDown too.
Well, yeah, and they've been really de-emphasized. I just think Breezango isn't. It's a good opening match act on the house shows, and I enjoy it, but I don't see them as the champions.
Yeah, one thing I would say though is if Breezango won the titles and they went into the feud with the New Day, you could have some pretty damn entertaining television segments with those two.
Yeah, that actually would be very epic. You can still do
it. I mean, that's the thing with Breezango. I mean, you can still have them be entertaining and not be the champions.
Yeah, I would like it as a tag title feud, but yeah, we'll see. I did want to touch on too again what happened at Payback with the women's title, because they followed that up on Raw with the opening segment with Alexa Bliss and the whole coronation thing. I know, so Justin and I watched the show together. I know we were both on board having Alexa win the belt in that match. I'm not sure where Kyle stood in that perspective, but my feeling going in is that Bayley as the champion is just not, it's weird to say, she's just not a good champion. Like the whole character of Bayley is the chaser. Like she's better chasing the title than as a champion.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't, I mean, how long was she champion down in NXT? Because they took it off, or they had Asuka beat her. So it was August to the WrestleMania weekend. I mean, that's a pretty decent chunk of change, actually. No, I was for it. I mean, clearly they brought Alexa over with the intent, you know, to make her the champion. I mean, you know, I think we had talked about it last time we did a show. Well, if Alexa doesn't win, what do you do with her then?
Yeah. I mean, she's essentially in the Charlotte position now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I told Ryan on Sunday that Bayley is early 90s Sting. He should just be she should just be chasing the title.
Yeah.
Table a Sting comparison with a WWE female, because I'm going to come back to that. Believe it or not. That will not be the first time that a current member of the WWE women's roster is compared to Sting on this program. No, I think it was the right call. I mean, I think you looked Alexa, and I loved the interview on Talking Smack, or not talk, whatever, Raw Talk, where she was like, you know, all I hear about is this 4 horsewomen. Well, I'm the first one who's won the title on Raw and SmackDown. I thought that was great. Mm-hmm. And I've got to come back to it. I know I've mentioned it before. Man, where would Alexa Bliss be if Eva Marie had never gotten suspended? Wow. I mean, you're talking about, I mean, you don't see this that often in modern WWE. I mean, you used to see it all the time where, like, something unforeseen would happen and it would have kind of a weird cause and effect type deal. You don't see that really in WWE nowadays. But with Alexa Bliss, that's certainly the case. I mean, this is kind of she got an opportunity that wasn't supposed to be there, I think, and she's made the most of it. My hat's off to her.
You said it doesn't happen very often. The biggest example, and that's true, the biggest example I can think of is, where it would have Steve Austin been if the Click incident at MSG didn't happen in Triple H.
Exactly.
In the ring that year.
Or what if Shawn Michaels hadn't lost his smile in '97 and they do Brett and Shawn at that WrestleMania like they were supposed to, and that was the plan for a year.
Yeah. So hey, we're not saying Alexa Bliss is Triple H or Steve Austin here, but yeah, she has been, I think, the biggest winner overall of the brand split, because nobody saw this coming. Well, yeah, Strowman, I guess, but nobody. If you're looking at titles, okay, she has won both titles now, and nobody even saw her as a women's champion going in. Probably,
it's a good kind of gimmick for her to have it, and the whole Raw women's division, that was a great opening 30 minutes they have. They gave them 30 minutes to open that show, and it was good. Not only the talking segment, but the match. Man, I don't know. With Sasha and Alicia Fox, I don't know who decided to they were going for Brawl of the Year there or something like that. I don't know if you caught that. It went for a minute, but man, it was one of the best brawl, some of the best brawling you've seen on WWE TV in a long time. I'm not even lying.
Well, after that opening segment, I'm just ready for that WrestleMania moment when Alexa Bliss body slams Nia Jax like Hulk Hogan and Andre.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think the big question is now, what about the Sasha Banks heel turn?
I was just thinking about that. I think Sasha is just kind of skating by right now. She's just not really a factor at all.
Well, you know what though? When Alexa came up to her, that was something I noted. Alexa came up to her in that segment. The crowd was hot for that. The crowd was absolutely hot for an Alexa Bliss Sasha Banks match.
Yeah, I think she has to turn though.
I think you hold it off till closer to SummerSlam and make that.
Yeah, I mean, go with
Sasha.
And then a lot of tags right now. Bliss and Nia Jax against Bayley and Sasha.
Mm-hmm. That's the other problem.
A lot of that.
If you turn Sasha, who's the other face of the other baby face of Raw Women's?
Yeah, it's almost like either Bailey or Sasha has to be the champion to make that work. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to turn Sasha when you've got the heel champion, I don't think.
So let's see. Anything else from the fallout? I guess, we had Reigns, we had Strowman, had a pretty good match. There's been a lot of heat on those guys this week for a picture taken in Europe. A lot of crap made about that I know we're all in agreement. It's not really that big of a deal, but maybe we should talk about it. If you didn't see it, they're on tour in Europe right now. There was a picture posted, was on Instagram, by Titus O'Neil.
I saw it on Twitter.
Okay. Titus O'Neil posted a picture. It might have been like the Roman Coliseum or something. I'm not sure where it was. But Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Matt Hardy, Curtis Axel, Titus was there. They're all standing, taking a group shot, and everyone's like, kayfabe is dead. You got Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns in the same picture. Didn't kayfabe die like 30 years ago?
Oh my God. And we're adults. We know these people have lives outside of wrestling. The only people you'd have to be worried about seeing this picture are little kids, and they're probably too busy playing with toys or video games. They're the only ones who should be upset about that kind of picture. Grow up.
It should be
smart.
On Instagram. Yeah.
I don't even think that kids would be upset. It's funny. I noticed the picture. And I looked at it. So, nice picture. Okay, that's fun. And I didn't even think about the kayfabe element. Like it's just something that didn't like. I mean,
that's because you're a clear thinking adult, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the argument against it, I get it. I just don't think it matters. I'll say this. There was a time when that would have been like disastrous. I just think that the times have changed, and you could make an argument. Oh, okay, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't think it's a big deal. There's a lot of reasons, things WWE could do better. I don't think, assigning babyface and heel hotels like Bill Watts used to is.
Yeah, this is a different era. This isn't like Hacksaw and Sheik getting busted riding together with cocaine.
Yeah, the time this would have been disastrous, we were all toddlers. I mean.
Yeah. And that was, the WWE, it's kind of funny. They did react they were like, oh, it was like kind of embarrassing. Because the newspaper articles are like, oh, these guys are supposed to be feuding, doing a USA Iran gimmick, and look, they're doing cocaine in a car together. By the way, how great would it have been if Jim Duggan was doing coke off the 2x4 and would give it the old ho right after he started live?
I guarantee you he did at some point.
There's no way he didn't ever he didn't toot lines off that 2x4, right?
Yeah. Just to the point though, kayfabe and all this is the company that produces WWE 24 constantly, where they show their guys interacting backstage. You can go on their YouTube channel and see it. It's not a big deal. Nobody
and the
cares.
DVDs too. I mean, once you started doing those DVDs and stuff too, I don't know. Yeah, okay, like Vince McMahon, when was it? Was it like 89? He admitted in a court of law or something that, okay, this is all fake. It's predetermined, right? I think it was 1989.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say had something like this happened in 1990 that it wouldn't have been a big deal. It probably would have been. As a matter of fact, I know it would have been. When did it, though, stop being a big deal, realistically?
I'd say the Attitude Era, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when it really, don't you think that's when they really emphasize, like, this is really just to show we're not trying, that Vince did that famous promo where it's like, oh, it's not good guys versus bad guys and all that.
The Super Bowl commercial. I'm trying to think, because Brett
and Owen were still selling their kayfabe feud 94. I'm
trying to think, so here's the big, when Austin and Vince, obviously that was like the biggest feud, right? In that era.
Yeah.
Did they do media together?
Not that I remember.
Because there was a lot of TV guide stuff, and I can't even remember what those articles said. They were just fluff pieces, but yeah, I don't know. I feel it's with those DVDs and stuff where they take you behind the curtain, and like you said, the 24/7 special. I just don't think it's a big thing anymore.
Yeah,
it's
20 to 30 years. It hasn't been a big deal. Go ahead.
Did either of you guys notice this? So Braun Strowman went all Sean Stasiak through that ambulance door in the angle where I thought that looked so preposterous. That was an issue. And I don't think the ambulance door was supposed to break, because when they were showing the replay on Raw, they did not show him busting through it and going into the boxes like he was Sean Stasiak. Did anyone else, like, am I the only one who caught that? Like,
I didn't notice that live.
Yeah, like they had it like, oh, he hit the ambulance door, and they did not show him, just because it looked kind of like I laughed when he did it, when he ran through the door into the boxes. I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, he can't sell quite like Roman can.
Few can in the history of the business.
So yeah, Roman walking off after that match with the blood and everything, that was very well done, you know, for all the Roman Reigns critics out there. He did a hell of a job selling the ending of that match.
Wasn't it me a couple weeks ago on this program who said they're going the Tommy Dreamer route with Roman Reigns?
Oh no, they definitely are. No doubt about it.
I mean, they want you to think Roman's hardcore, man.
If I'm not mistaken, they've done this with him before, where Roman was getting beat down a lot. I feel like there was.
Remember that Royal Rumble where they like just had him, like he kind of just walked to the back and then like came back up. That was poorly done. This was good. And are they going to beat him again at Extreme Rules? I think is the big question now, because if Strowman's getting the next title match, it makes sense to have Strowman over, and I guess it's going to be an ambulance match. Well, it's not. You know, we had talked about maybe they would do that for Payback. I understand why they didn't. They didn't want two gimmick matches on top, but man, I could see it being an ambulance match at Extreme Rules. That's a gimmick pay-per-view, and it's a way to beat Reigns, like we talked about, without pinning him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they're hell bent on the Tommy Dreamer angle, like we're talking about, I think Strowman has a pretty good chance to win again. I don't think the sympathy bit is going to work like they want it to, though. I don't think Roman is going to get that babyface pop for the guy people start feeling sorry for.
He will never get a universal. People have just made up their mind with it, and he's never getting a universal babyface.
No, I think what it's going to do is continue to get Strowman over more as a strong babyface. Strowman is getting reactions that they want Reigns to get right now.
Yes.
So I think it's just going to continue to build Strowman, and the word is he's going to wrestle Brock in July, which is going to be, I think, Brock's first title defense coming up. So,
and here's the thing. Who's the babyface in that scenario? Like, the way we're talking, and I think logic dictates it'll be Braun. I don't think that's set in stone.
No, I think Braun's going to get cheered in that match. I think people are sick of Brock Lesnar.
At what pay-per-view is that, by the way?
In July.
Great balls of fire.
Great balls of fire.
My God. What a terrible pay-per-view.
When I heard that, I was like, this has got to be the worst name for a pay-per-view ever. And then I kind of thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I saw the reaction on Twitter. You know what's kind of a bad name for a pay-per-view? Besides Great Balls of Fire.
of Fire.
Like Vengeance and like all these, like, at least Great Balls of Fire. I mean, I guess there's an argument to be made that's like just too stupid and too over the top, but like these kind of like corporate buzzword names, like Payback, Backlash. Like, what does that mean? Like that doesn't, like, it's not like it's like, ooh, Backlash. What does that mean? Like, let me get fired. Like, those names don't sell the show. I mean, Great Balls of Fire might be a little.
Well, you know what? If the pay-per-view is happening in like Memphis or something with the Jerry Lee Lewis connotation, maybe it would make sense a little bit. I could kind of pass it off as, okay, all right, they're hitting it like Memphis rock and roll history. But where is it? Is it in like Houston or something?
Yes.
I don't know.
Dallas.
It's Dallas. Okay.
The other way they can make it work is if it's a lethal lottery with the participants fighting an inferno match or something. You do the drawings with the balls and whoever gets the ticket.
I think they should just. I was gonna say, I think they should just go full in on these 1950s rock and roll song pay-per-views. They could follow it up with like tribute to Chuck Berry and have WWE Maybelline in St. Louis and WWE Jailhouse Rock in Memphis, and
You know
Why
what's gonna
not?
be great? You know what's gonna be great too is when they don't even like. There will be no mention of Jerry Lee Lewis, and it's gonna be like some shitty Shinedown song that like
Oh my
song in the show. You know that's gonna be.
It just has a lyric in it or something.
Jerry Lee Lewis
Yeah.
hyping a like 2017 WWE pay-per-view. It's gonna be
So-
something like
so-
"Lips of an Angel."
I did do a dive on song titles, trying to figure out what song title would be the best for a pay-per-view, and I decided it's the next time Shane McMahon headlines a pay-per-view, the pay-per-view needs to be called the title from the Crystals song, "He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss."
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I saw Bruce Springsteen cover that song in St. Louis, Missouri in 2008.
Wow.
Then he kissed me. Yeah, the Crystals. Wow, we are really getting into some old school rock and roll.
I was like, wow, that's incredible. You and
No,
Courtney Cox.
I would have put that on my wall. No, so yeah, we've got a lot of bizarre things going on in WWE these days, but it's interesting. So
Yeah.
with the Brock Braun match possibly on the horizon, I did like on Raw how you had Finn Balor, talk about he's coming for his title. You had Seth Rollins, he wants in the title picture. So there's kind of a big mix mash going on, and who's going to be the contender for the Universal title. What's the end game here? I mean, how long is Brock Lesnar actually going to hold the belt? Because if it's me, I'm putting the belt on Braun Strowman this summer.
And that's okay. And that's part of my concern with this possible Strowman Lesnar match at Great Balls of Fire, because a lot of people.
Sorry, this sounds crazy when you say that.
A lot of people were upset, me and Ryan included, when Strowman's big monster push, he got defeated by Roman Reigns at I don't know, random at
Fastlane. Hey, you remembered if it was at Great Balls of Fire.
That's right.
Exactly. But so wouldn't this be even worse if they've built Strowman up again, dominating Roman Reigns, and then he just gets beat by Lesnar? Isn't that worse than him just losing that first match to Roman?
Because, Reigns is eventually going to get over in this feud against Strowman. So what's interesting is I thought, because right now they're 1-1, and I guess the ambulance or whatever it's going to be at Extreme Rules is the rubber match. And if Strowman wins 2-1, I still think Reigns gets a win. Maybe it's at Summer. They blow up. They do the blow off at SummerSlam. But I don't know. I mean, to my point earlier, because I was far less critical of Strowman losing at Fastlane, and look where he is at now. I mean, that loss didn't matter, really. I mean, they rehabbed it pretty good with the angle post-Mania, the ambulance angle. So
I'm just not interested in a year-long Lesnar Reigns.
I'm not either, and that is an issue. Another issue is beyond, because I don't think they're going to put Strowman over Lesnar. I just don't. I mean, we could all argue till we're blue in the face that they should. I just don't think they're going to do it. Do you see Vince doing a three-way where it's Brock versus Finn versus Seth at SummerSlam, because he doesn't believe that his audience will buy either of those guys having a chance to beat Brock Lesnar one-on-one?
100%. I had that exact same thought. I mean, Lesnar crushed Rollins. What was it, 2 summers ago, when Rollins had the title, and
but he didn't beat him. That was when the Undertaker came back. Yeah,
and there's no way Vince is allowing tiny little Finn Balor to beat Lesnar, especially with some of the reactions I've seen on Twitter. There's a lot of people that are down on Finn being able to actually beat Lesnar.
Hey, if he brought the Demon King thing out and Heyman sold it, I think you could get people to buy it.
I do. I buy it, but
Yeah, I think a triple threat makes sense at SummerSlam. But
I can tell you this for a fact. Write this down. This is absolutely true. What SummerSlam was it? Which year was it when Brock wrestled CM Punk? 2013. Yes, 2013.
Yeah.
So that show did not do as well as SummerSlam the previous year when Brock had wrestled Triple H. And even though Brock versus CM Punk, if you watch it, was just a better feud. It really was. It didn't draw as well. Now, granted, it was the semifinal on that show. That was the John Cena Daniel Bryan match, which was also incredible. And Orton did the Money in the Bank cash in, just to paint the picture here for people to remember. Vince feels that the reason, this is true, this is a true story that I heard. The reason SummerSlam 2013 did not draw as well as 2012 was because people didn't buy CM Punk as having a realistic chance, a little guy like CM Punk, of beating Brock Lesnar. And that's why he never wanted to do Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar after that. As much as Bryan wanted to do that match, Vince McMahon never had any interest in doing Daniel Bryan, Brock Lesnar, because Vince has it in his head that, oh, who's going to believe this small guy is going to beat Brock Lesnar?
That's fucking pro wrestling. You can believe whatever you put in front of us.
Yes.
I think you have everything you need to back up your theory about a triple threat then, because then there is absolutely no chance that Finn's going to beat him one-on-one.
Well, the only problem then is whoever doesn't take the fall then I guess can get maybe a one-on-one match, because you got to have opponents for this guy. I mean, if he's going to hold it that long, I mean, if he's going to hold it for a freaking year,
yeah, which
I think is a mistake. I don't know. To me, I would get maybe I'm in the minority. I'd get the title on Roman as quick as possible. Just get it over with. That's what we all know. That's what you want to do. Have Roman Reigns. Don't wait till WrestleMania. Have him beat Brock Lesnar before WrestleMania, and do Reigns versus Cena at WrestleMania.
Well, at least that way you don't get the massive revolt of the hardcore fans at Mania when it happens. You get the belt on them earlier.
Although, would there be a more interesting fan reaction match than Roman Reigns versus John Cena at a WrestleMania? Can you? I mean,
who would the crowd? I think John Cena would get the cheers from the hardcores on that situation.
Would it be a Goldberg Lesnar situation, or would we get the dreaded "you both suck"? I mean,
I think we're getting close to the time, especially with all the time off that John Cena's taking, where he's going to start getting like the nostalgia pops, even from the people that have been booing him for a decade.
Wow. Or people are just more concerned with booing Reigns now than Cena.
Yeah. That would be a really interesting dynamic, though. I would look forward to the match just to see that. Speaking of interesting dynamics, Chris Jericho made his exit on SmackDown this week.
Well, that was a very interesting, good segue there. Talk show host.
That's why they pay me the big bucks, you guys.
Yeah.
So Jericho's out, and when he left, I began to think of a conversation that Justin and I had back when he started on Top Rope Nation. I think in January, maybe we had this discussion. Kyle was out for that show, and we talked about, where does Chris Jericho rank in the all-time rankings of professional wrestlers? Like, does he crack that top 10 after this recent run? Is he in the top 20? I said at the time top 20 to me.
That seems lofty.
Top 20?
Yeah.
I think top 20 is reasonable.
Like what are we going by? What's the criterion?
So we had talked about that on that show, I believe. But we were talking, the typical things, having good matches, a long period of time.
He was never really the top guy. The company never built, even when he was the champion going into WrestleMania 18.
No, yeah.
The company never, been built around Chris Jericho.
Yeah. But he is a decent mainstream star. People know him, especially after the Dancing with the Stars gig. He's been like a main eventer to semi-main eventer now for almost 20 years. Had incredible matches with a whole host of people. And this last run he had over the last year or so, like nobody expected that to go as well as it did.
I think I've liked this one the most. Although it got off to an ugly start at this time last year, the stuff with AJ and Dean Ambrose, that wasn't very good.
Yeah. Let me make it all-time WWE stars. Like, does he start cracking that top 20, top 25? Because I think an argument can be
just factoring in WWE. Well, he's certainly not like the top tier. Like, he's like with WWE, it's you've got the Austin, Rock, Hogan, San Martino tier, and then there's and then there's a drop right there. Like, those four are way above everyone.
You put Bret Hart way below them.
Yes.
So then you're going by like mainstream recognized.
I'm going by, yes, Hulk Hogan and Bruno Sammartino were not tremendous workers, but in terms of like I'm just talking about their importance to the company, I guess.
So why can't you judge these guys based on like you would like a baseball player. Like if they have different tools, like, okay, drawing power is nice, but can they put on good matches, and how good is their character?
Oh no, I would agree. And then you're looking at like a team. I mean, you've got guys like, I'm just in terms of because he's not, the interesting thing with Jericho is the reason he was brought over, like he was like one of the first guys brought over from WCW. It wasn't because of his work in the ring, actually. It was because people thought, he could get over with his ability on the mic. That's always the great irony. Like he was always considered kind of maybe a step below the Benoits and the Guerreros of the world. Yeah, in the ring, and he was a step below those. I mean, it's not a huge step, but I don't know. I would put him. I mean, he's below guy. I mean, in terms of like star power, he's obviously below guys like The Undertaker and, like Andre the Giant, like the special attraction type guys. Top 25, I don't know. Brett and Shawn, I think, are more important than Chris Jericho was.
Yeah, I'm kind of like just drawing out a list here, and I know what you're saying about like the tiers. So you got like Austin, Rock, Hogan, Bruno, they're at the top. And then I think like a tier right below that, I'd kind of have like Piper, Savage, Brett, Shawn.
Yeah, Piper and Savage. Yeah, you got to have Piper and Savage up there. Yeah.
And I think Taker and Cena are kind of like
Cena's absolutely more important. Yes.
Yeah, those two are kind of right in that area too. So that gives us like 10 guys right there. And Jericho definitely doesn't break into that group.
Is he not really even close to Piper? Like all the other guys you mentioned, I totally agree, but he's not close to Piper. Piper was huge for like 5 years.
He was just but he was so big in breaking through the mainstream in the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, but then what about match quality?
The key in wrestling is the peak. I mean, if you can hit the highest of the highs, you can excuse the lowest of the lows. I have a buddy who I always argue like albums with, like quality of like albums. Like he like is very unforgiving of like a terrible track on an album. But I'm like, well, okay, yeah, that song sucks. But if you have like 2 songs on an album, they're like fucking phenomenal, then I'll take one that sucks, rather than a consistent album. Roddy Piper's height is much higher than Chris Jericho's height.
But I guess it's like the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird comparison, whereas Magic's high is excuse me. I don't think that's the right analogy. No, Bird's high was probably better, but Magic's career was longer.
I don't know. I don't think Jericho had a better career than Roddy Piper.
This is where ranking wrestlers gets hard because you get to you started out asking Kyle like what's the criteria.
Yeah, I mean it's
a lot of what you're looking at.
If you're gonna tell me like who I prefer, like personally, I mean Roddy Piper had some like terrible, like the son of an unnamed goat shit was like really bad. Like that's really really bad. Like I'll be honest with you. See, now I'm thinking about this because like Roddy Piper really like I did like that little run he had in 91, 92 when he won the Intercontinental title. I liked that.
Me too.
But for the most part, like after 1989, when he came back, God, like babyface Roddy Piper was, and like in WCW and stuff. I think he like did a knot joke in 1998, which isn't good. I don't know. But
all I know is Jericho's been more relevant for a longer period of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Has he? I don't know. Roddy Piper, if he walked out tomorrow on Raw, you'd get a huge reaction.
Well, yeah, but think about if Jericho walked out on Raw 20 years from now.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what, that list thing, man, he can live off that. He doesn't even have a good match anymore.
Yeah. I was just going to say
that's key to this run too, because his ring work, this was the first time his ring work had slipped noticeably.
Oh, like yeah.
AJ and Dean, and you could tell. That list thing was a real godsend for him.
Yeah. Well, I think Jericho in the top 20 for me, because when I'm looking at this list I've been sketching out, and we just went through it a minute ago with the different tiers. And if I go from that second tier, then down another tier, at that point, I'm looking at Triple H and I'm looking at Jericho.
Yeah. So here's the interesting, there's always that argument. Like if you go back to the early part of the century, like when Triple H got his monster push, right? People were like, "Oh, it's bullshit, man. When Triple H got all these favors, what about Angle? What about Jericho?" And I think Angle and Jericho did deserve a little bit better during that time period, but I don't think either of them would have necessarily gotten any more over than Triple H did.
Yeah, I think.
You know what I'm saying?
H, Triple H.
There was somebody that needed to be in that void, and they picked Triple H. And guess what? It turns out that he's now married to Vince McMahon's daughter. So it was going to be him.
He was on his way before the Stephanie relationship. I think you can make an argument he stayed on top longer because of that relationship,
yes.
But he was going to get there regardless.
Yes. And I don't think if you would have put Chris Jericho and Triple H, I'm not saying that he's with Stephanie. I'm just saying if you would have just not pushed Triple H in late 99. That's crazy, by the way, that line.
J.J. Abrams over here.
Yeah. If you would have put Chris Jericho as the main event heel starting late 99, and there was an argument back then too when he came over. I mean, that was a hot debut he had on Raw.
Oh, that was one of the greatest debuts of all time.
Yeah. If you put him as the main event heel, I don't think his career is necessarily any better than Triple H's is right now. I just don't. They needed a main event heel. They chose Triple H. That's it.
If you don't know what Kyle was talking about a second ago, you need to watch our shows on YouTube. Of course, you can always listen to the podcast, but these shows go up on YouTube every week. Justin has a new microphone, as we talked about, and he's got the light, and it's like flashing. It looks like a lightsaber almost, or something going on right now on his webcam. So check us out. And by the way, subscribe on YouTube. Look up Top Rope Press, or just look up Top Rope Nation. Find the shows. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, then you'll never miss the webcast versions of the shows either. So, guys, I want to wrap this show up. We've gone on a while. You guys have any closing thoughts before we head into the weekend this week?
I have one.
Go ahead.
I have two. Actually, two now that I think about it. My first one is I have to get my Sting comparison out.
Yeah, I got that written down on my sheet here.
Okay.
I wanted to hear it.
Charlotte and Becky Lynch on SmackDown. When you talk about the SmackDown Women's Division, Charlotte is a babyface. Very, very interesting. Moving forward, this is what's going to happen. Charlotte's going to be your dad. Becky Lynch is going to be Sting. Charlotte will bring Becky in all to trust her, and then she's going to turn on her. I think that's your big angle moving forward. And the only other thing I have left to say, and before I turn over to Justin, Mitch Trubisky, give me a break.
Oh,
man.
no, don't even start that.
You see how much praise that pick has been getting from the big names lately?
What?
Bill Polian recently was talking about what a great move that was.
Man,
we were just mad because your Cleveland Browns didn't get their guy.
First of all, they're not my Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns could fall into Lake Erie for all I care. Okay. And there could go back to 31 NFL teams. Mitch, what timeline? Bill Polian? That tool with his little salute? I hate Bill Polian.
He is one of the greatest general managers in recent NFL history.
I don't like him.
Well, you can't deny that. He is a great mind for talent.
What do they always?
I don't know how this pick's gonna end up, but I admire the team.
Trubisky?
You don't know what's gonna happen. You might be laughing at yourself on YouTube in 5 years.
Well, that's probably
Look at those teams that passed on Aaron Rodgers. That was stupid.
Aaron Rodgers now all of a sudden? Oh boy.
No, I'm not saying that, but nobody knew at the time Aaron Rodgers was going to be Aaron Rodgers.
I did.
That's why like 20 plus teams passed on him.
To any of our wrestling fans who are already bored by this conversation, I had to listen to them go back and forth through text message for like an hour.
I told Kyle.
Feel my pain.
I told Kyle because, I'm very down on my Chicago Bears, but I told Kyle that night, I'm not mad about them giving up a couple mid-round picks to get a guy that they believe is their quarterback of the future. Now, if he ends up the quarterback of the future, it's a great trade. If he doesn't, it's a bad trade, but we won't know for years. So it's kind of stupid to debate at this point. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So, and they did get back.
Trubisky?
They did get back. I think all but one of those picks they traded when they traded down in the second round.
I did see that.
So who knows? I'd much rather watch him play than Glennon. So
and who also knew that LeVar Ball would not be the stupidest sounding person in America on March 4th or May 4th, 2017.
Did you see his shoes and how much those are going to cost?
Yeah, he's like, you're not a big baller if you don't have enough money for these. What an out of touch tweet that. Be ashamed of yourself.
Justin, I'm going to bring you out of your boredom. Any closing thoughts?
Just two very quick ones. Number one, shout out to my Tottenham Hotspurs and any of our English listeners. St. Totteringham's Day is officially canceled this year. And finally, goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
Jerry Lee, hit the music. That is definitely going on the podcast, by the way. Hopefully we don't get sued over that, but you're going to hear a little Jerry Lee Lewis if you haven't heard it already. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. As always, check us out on topropepress.com. Look us up on iTunes, patreon.com/topropenation. Check you guys next week.
Peace.